Hello and welcome to our channel. We're so glad you're here. If you want to improve your English listening skills while learning about fascinating topics, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Today, we're going to explore the life of one of the most powerful and controversial figures in modern history, Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, which is now known as St. Petersburg. His childhood was not easy. He grew up in a communal apartment, sharing a small space with his parents and two other families. Life after World War II was tough in the Soviet Union. His father, also named Vladimir, fought in the war and was severely injured. His mother, Maria, worked in a factory and survived the brutal siege of Leningrad. Putin had two older brothers, but both died before he was born, one in infancy and the other during the siege. As a young boy, Putin was described as energetic and a bit of a troublemaker. He wasn't a top student at first, but he was very interested in sports. He started practicing Sambo, a Soviet martial art, and then moved on to judo. He became very good at it, earning his black belt. He has said that judo taught him important lessons about respect, discipline, and strategy. These were skills that would become very important later in his life. In high school, Putin became more serious about his studies. He was inspired by spy movies and novels, and he dreamed of joining the KGB, the famous and powerful intelligence agency of the Soviet Union. This was a very ambitious goal. He even went to a local KGB office to ask how he could join. They told him he should get a university degree, preferably in law. So that's exactly what he did. Putin enrolled in the law department at Leningrad State University in 1970. He studied hard and graduated in 1975. During his time at university, he continued to develop his political ideas and understanding of the world. It was a critical period that prepared him for the next big step in his life. After graduating, Putin's dream came true. He was recruited by the KGB. This was the start of a 16-year career as an intelligence officer. His training was intense, teaching him how to gather information, analyze people, and operate in secret. For the first few years, he worked in counterintelligence in his hometown of Leningrad, keeping an eye on foreigners and potential threats to the Soviet state. In the mid-1980s, Putin was given a foreign assignment. He was sent to Dresden, in what was then East Germany. This was a significant step in his career. His official job was as the director of the Soviet-German House of Friendship, a cultural center. But his real work was intelligence gathering. He worked to recruit agents and collect information on NATO, the Western Military Alliance. His time in Dresden was a formative experience. He learned to speak German fluently and got a first-hand look at life outside the Soviet Union. He was there in 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell, a moment that changed the world forever. He witnessed the collapse of communist power in East Germany and the excitement of the people. It's said that he watched angry crowds surround the KGB building in Dresden. He called for military backup from a nearby Soviet tank unit, but the response he got was, "Moscow is silent." This experience reportedly left a deep impression on him, showing him what can happen when a state loses its power and authority. With the collapse of the Soviet Union seeming inevitable, Putin returned to Leningrad in 1990. His KGB career was effectively over. He needed a new path. He took a job at his old university, working in the International Affairs Office. This position put him in contact with Anatoly Sobchak, a prominent democratic reformer who was then the chairman of the Leningrad City Council. Sobchak soon became the first democratically elected mayor of St. Petersburg, and he invited Putin to be his advisor. This was Putin's entry into the world of politics. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming deputy mayor. In this role, he was responsible for managing foreign relations and investments for the city. He gained a reputation as a capable and reliable administrator, someone who could get things done. But this period was also filled with controversy. There were allegations of corruption related to the distribution of food and the issuing of business licenses. However, no formal charges were ever brought against him, and he has always denied any wrongdoing. In 1996, his boss, Anatoly Sobchak, lost his re-election campaign for mayor. Suddenly, Putin was out of a job, but his reputation had spread beyond St. Petersburg. He was invited to Moscow to work in the presidential administration of Boris Yeltsin, the first president of the Russian Federation. This move to Moscow was the turning point that would lead him to the highest office in the country. He took on several important roles in the Kremlin. In 1998, Yeltsin appointed him as the head of the main successor agency to the KGB. Putin was back in the world of intelligence, but this time he was in charge. A year later, in August 1999, President Yeltsin made a surprise announcement. He appointed Putin as prime minister. At the time, Putin was not well known to the Russian public. He seemed like a quiet, serious bureaucrat. But things were about to change dramatically. Russia was facing a serious crisis in Chechnya, a region in the North Caucasus that was fighting for independence. A series of apartment bombings in Russian cities, which the government blamed on Chechen separatists, created a climate of fear. As prime minister, Putin responded with force. He launched the Second Chechen War, vowing to wipe out the terrorists. His tough stance and decisive actions made him very popular with the Russian people, who were tired of the instability and weakness that they felt defined the 1990s. His approval ratings soared. Then, on New Year's Eve 1999, the world was stunned. Boris Yeltsin appeared on television and announced his immediate resignation. In his speech, he named Vladimir Putin as the acting president. Elections were scheduled for 3 months later, riding a wave of popularity. Putin easily won the presidential election in March 2000. At the age of 47, he became the second president of the Russian Federation. He promised to restore order, strengthen the state, and improve the lives of ordinary Russians. During his first 2 terms as president, from 2000 to 2008, Russia's economy grew significantly. This was largely due to rising global prices for oil and gas, Russia's main exports. Living standards improved for many people, and a sense of stability returned after the chaotic years of the 1990s. Putin worked to centralize power, bringing regional governors and powerful business leaders, known as oligarchs, under the control of the Kremlin. Some oligarchs who challenged his authority were jailed or forced to leave the country. He also reasserted Russia's influence on the world stage, opposing actions by the United States and NATO that he saw as a threat to Russian interests. The Russian constitution at the time limited a president to 2 consecutive terms. So, in 2008, Putin could not run for president again. Instead, his close associate, Dmitry Medvedev, was elected president. Putin then became the prime minister. Most observers, both inside and outside Russia, believe that Putin remained the most powerful person in the country, even as prime minister. This arrangement was sometimes called a tandemocracy. During Medvedev's presidency, the constitution was changed. The presidential term was extended from 4 years to 6 years. This change made it possible for Putin to return to the presidency for a much longer period, and that is exactly what happened. In 2012, Putin ran for president again and won a 3rd term. His return was met with large protests in Moscow and other major cities, as some people felt the election was not fair and were unhappy with his continued dominance of Russian politics. However, he maintained strong support in many other parts of the country. His 3rd and 4th presidential terms have been defined by a more assertive foreign policy and increasing tensions with the West. In 2014, following a pro-Western revolution in Ukraine, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula. This action was condemned by many countries and led to international sanctions against Russia. Soon after, a conflict began in eastern Ukraine between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists. Throughout his time in power, Putin has cultivated an image of a strong, healthy, and active leader. He is often shown on television, practicing judo, playing ice hockey, riding a horse, or engaging in other outdoor activities. This image is a key part of his appeal to many Russians. In 2020, more constitutional changes were approved in a national vote. These changes effectively reset Putin's previous terms, allowing him to potentially run for president again in 2024 and 2030. This could allow him to stay in power until 2036. Then, in February 2022, the world watched as Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. They called it a special military operation. This act has had enormous consequences, leading to a devastating war, a major humanitarian crisis, and the most serious confrontation between Russia and the West since the Cold War. The international response has been swift and severe, with unprecedented sanctions imposed on Russia. The story of Vladimir Putin is the story of a man who rose from a modest background to become one of the most dominant global leaders of the 21st century. His journey from a Leningrad courtyard to the Kremlin is a complex tale of ambition, strategy, and power. Whether seen as a strong leader who restored Russia's pride and stability, or as an authoritarian figure who has challenged the international order, his impact on Russia and the world is undeniable. His story continues to unfold, and its final chapters have yet to be written. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. We hope you found this story interesting and that it helped you practice your English. If you enjoyed this video and want more content like this, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us a lot. We'll see you in the next one.